The Chicago Bulls regular season is over. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about Coby White, Josh Giddey, and our young promising rookie with some other things that we learned throughout this season. But after looking at it, should we consider the 2024-2025 season a success? Y'all know we're going to talk about it all and break it down, but you got to hear the music first.
Cognac, gang.
Shy Boys Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. If y'all tuned in with me today, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. Man, y'all support has been tremendous for this platform. We appreciate y'all just so we can make sure that we showing that love right back. Appreciate y'all. And my new people that's tuning in, if you're tuned in, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. But let's get into it, man. After all things considered, the Chicago Bulls, they end the season with a 39-43 record, ending their season as the 9th seed, setting themselves up to go out there and play in a play-in game. Hey, let's talk about it. Should we consider this season a success? Now, if you asking me, I'm saying yes. We absolutely should consider the Chicago Bulls season as a success. And I have a few reasons why. When you talk about the Chicago Bulls and the way that they ended this season, they brought a lot of excitement back to the city of Chicago. I know there has been some pro tankers that want to see the Chicago Bulls not do many things or just go out there and blow games. But me, I'm a competitor. I understand that tanking could potentially go out there and help you garner some additional talent and probably change things and make it a little different for the outlook of a said franchise. But the Chicago Bulls, they have some young talent on this team. Is it going to be some talent that's going to change the Chicago Bulls into a championship team? Probably not. But they do have some pieces that you can absolutely start to treat as your core and move forward with. But when we talk about the Chicago Bulls and that 39-43 record, the Chicago Bulls were only projected to win 27 games this season, and they excelled. That's a check mark for me. Then when you talk about the style of play for the Chicago Bulls, one of those teams that was way back down at towards the bottom of the league in pace when they had guys like a DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Alex Caruso running the show these last few years. Now the Chicago Bulls are number 3 in the league with style of play. Offensive rating could very well use some work. Defensive rating very well could use some work. But the way that these guys have been getting up and down the floor, hitting three-point shots, putting their head down, attacking the basket, drawing fouls, letting C-Dub call somebody another goofy on a live call brought a lot of excitement to this team. Then when we talk about some of our young players, we talk about a Dalen Terry. And if you look at Dalen Terry, you're not going to go out there and see a bunch of crazy stats or a crazy box score if you're looking at Dalen Terry. But I will say this, Dalen Terry has taken a step forward. He's officially a solid NBA player, and he's going to have to work on his game to improve in that. I remember when Dalen Terry first entered the Chicago Bulls team, and we was like, hold on, bro. We calling him Crash Bandicoot. We like, man, what are you doing? You look out of control. The three-point shot was not falling. The form needed a lot of work. And now you look at Dalen Terry this season. Solid on the defensive end. Definitely still got to improve on that shot, but the form is better. And then that crucial matchup this past week versus the Miami Heat, Dalen Terry hit 2 big-time threes for the Chicago Bulls. He's helping the Chicago Bulls. You're seeing him develop. Now we're going to see what's next for him. What's next for Dalen Terry? Then when the trade went down to get Zach LaVine to Sacramento and we got our trades back, in Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and Zach Collins, those trade pieces came in and changed the outlook for the season for the Chicago Bulls. They really did. You know what I'm saying? Because we was going into that All-Star break, and look, I was being petty, like, hey, what are we doing here? But then coming out of All-Star break, you see the Chicago Bulls go out there and compete at a higher level than what they were currently competing at. I'm not going out there on a limb and saying that the way that the Chicago Bulls is playing is now going to etch them up to the top 6 of the Eastern Conference. I think the Chicago Bulls have to set themselves up to where they have to be aggressive this offseason to continue to shape out this team. But we not there yet. So you still go out there and you show guys like Zach Collins some love, how he was able to come in and have an impact defensively and in the paint and offensively for the Chicago Bulls, to where he performed so well. He took minutes from Jalen Smith, a guy that we signed to for a couple years to this team. Then you look at Trey Jones before he went down for his injury for the Chicago Bulls. You look at Trey Jones and say, my goodness, is he a pit bull on the defensive side? Man, is he being hella good on the offensive side, taking the shots as they were coming to him, being doing well on the offensive side for the Chicago Bulls, to where he was out there creating for others and getting his head down in the paint and making some tough baskets in the paint. And Kevin Huerter, he's been in that starting lineup, yes, battling some injuries, but for the Chicago Bulls, Kevin Huerter has shown up and given us some really, really good performances. And the Miami Heat was one of those games to where he actually showed the hell up. When we look at these three guys, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and Kevin Huerter, and when we first got them, it was a lot of questions on what the hell the Chicago Bulls were thinking. But you got to chalk it up as a small victory for these three players coming in and having some type of impact that we can utilize to help create the excitement that we had going down the stretch with this basketball team. No, everything is not perfect. No, we still have a lot of work to do. But for us to sit here and live in the moment, the Chicago Bulls brought some excitement back. They competed their tails off. You've seen them go up against and go toe-to-toe with some of the best teams around the league, even win some of those games against some of those top teams around the league. I remember vividly Josh Giddey knocking down that game winner. And what was a game to where we thought that the Los Angeles Lakers was going to come back and be out for blood. But the Chicago Bulls stayed resilient. The Chicago Bulls kept fighting. Even if you look a couple weeks ago at that Rockets game, they was going toe-to-toe with the number 2 seed in the West. It's not going to be a lot of people giving them brownie points or kudos for, you know what I'm saying, this last surge of the season per se. But if you're going to live in the moment, you got to say shout out to the young guys. And now I really want to talk about and focus on some of our young guys who makes me feel like we have something to where we can move forward with, as long as we continue to make adjustments and be aggressive this upcoming offseason. Obviously, that starts with getting Nikola Vucevic to another team. So now we can go out there and see if we can draft a young center, maybe have somebody come and step in as a permanent starter and allow the Chicago Bulls and the development staff to develop said player. And I got to give kudos to Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan has coached his tail off. Billy Donovan still gives us a headache on most nights. But you can't be mad for how Billy Donovan has adjusted for the guys that he has on his team. Billy Donovan, we're seeing the best version of Billy Donovan for the Chicago Bulls. It might not be to the standard that we want him to be at, but he has gotten the best out of his young Chicago Bulls players. So Billy Donovan deserves some credit in that regard, whether we want to admit it or not. He deserves some credit for how he coached his team throughout the entire season, starting off the season for the Chicago Bulls with the Zach LaVine, who had to, build his trade value up and had the Chicago Bulls humming as one of the best offenses in the league. Zach LaVine gets going. The Chicago Bulls bring in 3 more players. You got to figure some things out for how you're going to play these young players. And you got the best out of Trey Jones while he was playing and active for your team. You got the best out of Zach Collins for when he put on that uniform for the Chicago Bulls. You are getting the best version of Kevin Huerter, because keep it a buck, a lot of people wrote him off for how it ended in Sacramento. And Billy Donovan was able to get the best out of that guy. Look at Josh Giddey. Billy Donovan has been able to get the best out of Josh Giddey to the point to where Billy Donovan and Josh Giddey had that conversation and was like, hey, you got to step up to the challenge on the defensive side. Now, Josh Giddey is still not the best defender out there, but I'm telling you that man has been showing hella effort on the other side of the basketball court. That calls for some type of credit given to the head coach and the player. So shout out to them. Now I want to talk about the mortal backcourt of Sub-Zero and Scorpion. Let's start with Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero is Coby White. This is what's really helping me believe that it's a success for the Chicago Bulls season. When you look at some of these, you know what I'm saying? When you look at some of these young players rising to the occasion and being able to adjust, because remember last year, Coby White, he came up on the scene and was surprising people. And then in that second half of last season, Coby White kind of struggled a little bit adjusting to how teams were adjusting to him. And then you seen in games like the Miami Heat game to where Coby White necessarily didn't have it going offensively, but he used his ability to get to the basket to start to create for others and get his teammates involved. And that was an adjustment from the player and the coach, placing him in position to see Coby White thrive. Coby White's season average is 20 points, 4.5 assists, 3.7 rebounds over 74 games that he played for the Chicago Bulls this season. In his last season, Coby White elevated his play, averaging 30 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 3.6 assists per game in his last 10 games, elevating himself with some clean point totals with 44 versus the Orlando Magic, 36 versus the Lakers, and 37 versus the Denver Nuggets. Gotta love Sub-Zero, who's one part of the mortal backcourt. The other guy, we got to talk about Josh Giddey, man. Got to show Josh Giddey love on Shy Bulls podcast today, bro. We have to. And I think that if there are still people hating on him, be my guest. That's your prerogative. I'm not going to hate because I already said when he was coming into this, a guy that was able to have those type of abilities, he was going to fill up the stat sheet. But I ain't going to lie to you. I ain't think he was going to do it like this. Now, the season totals for Josh Giddey, who is the Scorpion of the mortal backcourt. He's the Scorpion of the mortal backcourt. 14.6 per game total. Eight rebounds, 7 assists over 70 games played for the Chicago Bulls. But after the All-Star break, Josh Giddey has been on a mission. 21 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists over his last 19 games. Yes, over his last 19 games. This season, 7 triple-double. Chicago Bulls, when Josh Giddey gets a triple-double in a game, they are 7-0. So get ready for that. And shout out to the other half of the mortal backcourt, Scorpion. That's Josh Giddey. And then the one thing that why I'm just on this level and pretty much saying that the Chicago Bulls, you got to look at it as some type of success because you was able to figure some things out and show love to your promising rookie. Your promising rookie is Matas Buzelis. Does he have to improve? Absolutely. But has he shown that he's ready for these moments? Absolutely. A lot of us questioned Billy Donovan's intentions early on in the season, but once Matas Buzelis became the starter, he did not give up the damn seat. That's what we've been asking Patrick Williams to do the entire tenure in his career with the Chicago Bulls. But Matas Buzelis has taken step after step after step ever since he was placed in that starting lineup. Season totals for Matas Buzelis, 8.6 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 1 assist over 80 games played for the Chicago Bulls. As a young whippersnapper, Matas Buzelis shot 51% from the field and 48% from the three. And when you talk about this young promising rookie, we talking about things that he's been capable of doing on the defensive side of the basketball. Hey, if you're not paying attention and he's coming from that weak side, we swatting it. If you think you just going to drive to him, you could potentially get that stuff sent up out of here with a nice block. And if you lacking on the offensive side, oh yeah, we coming to clean up the glass with a tip dunk. This young kid has all the tools necessary to continue to progress in the right direction to hopefully he could be one of those stars to where we're like, hey, shout out to all 10 teams that let Matas Buzelis slip to the Chicago Bulls to where they was able to take him at 11 in last year's draft. That's why I say Yes, there is some things we can nitpick with. You know what I'm saying? There are some things that we can look at for the Chicago Bulls and say, hey, man, we don't know if all these other teams that's coming back next year, the Philadelphia 76ers, we're looking at to see if the Washington Wizards take a step up, the Brooklyn Nets have draft capital. We ain't talking about that right now, but it's valid if you do bring it up. When we don't know how far the Chicago Bulls can go with that. You know what I'm saying? But you take the small victories and hope that these guys can do better, because this offseason is going to tell us a lot about how we should be trying to move and what we should be trying to do. There's some reports and rumors. Hey, Matas Buzelis could be out there. There's some people saying, can Nikola Jokic end up over here? There's some people saying entertain a Zion Williamson trade over here. All those things are interesting, and we'll be discussing those as time goes on. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where the Chicago Bulls go and move and how we move forward. But as of right now, you chalk it up as a win. You chalk it up as a success. This young team making the play-in is totally different than the Chicago Bulls of years past making the play-in. The Chicago Bulls don't have all-stars on this team right now outside of Nikola Vucevic. They don't have all NBA players on this team right now. They don't have a champion in Alex Caruso on this team right now. All these guys are young whippersnappers with chips on their shoulders, trying to learn this game and find themselves, you know what I'm saying, as having long careers. So shout out to them for going out there and putting their best foot forward to end the season. Would we like to see it for an entire season? Absolutely. But that's just that's just how it is right now. We'll get to that point later in the year. But as of right now, the way these guys went out there and competed every single night, you know what I'm saying? You got to go out there and show this young team some love. I want to know how y'all feeling about it, though. Do you consider this season to be a success for the Chicago Bulls? Why or why not? Let me know down in the comment box below, and we're going to chalk it up and have that conversation, because I think it's a good one to have. You got Josh Giddey, Coby White, a promising rookie. Maybe a Kevin Huerter could stick around. Maybe a Zach Collins can stick around, and you still can make some other moves to see how you can improve this team. Maybe with some more veteran leadership will bring, you know what I'm saying, some good things to the Chicago Bulls. It's going to be interesting moving into this offseason, but we got to worry about the play-in coming up here in a couple days. So we just going to focus on that before we talk about what is going to happen in the future for our Chicago Bulls. But that is it for me today, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Shy Bulls Podcast. If you want to go ahead and leave a comment, leave that in the comment box below. And y'all make sure y'all always see red, and y'all already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.
Cognac. Gang.